Hey, everybody, this is Heidi St. John. I am so glad that you guys have joined me today. Today is MailBox Monday, and as you know, I love to answer your questions. I want to thank you for sending them in to me today. My friend, Dr. Mark Sherwood, is back on the show, and we are going to tackle your questions. Well, really, it's going to be him. Well, I'm going to give him a little bit of help. We're going to be here giving you guys a little bit of hope and encouragement. Stick around. I think you're going to be encouraged. All right, well, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. I hope you guys are doing all right with your shopping. I got to say, I hit a personal best. I mean, can I just brag for a second? I hit a personal best this week. My Christmas cards came in the mail. I ordered them because, I ordered my Christmas cards, and when they came, I asked my daughter Summer to help me, and I addressed them and sent them out. They came in the mail via UPS. I addressed them and sent them out inside of 90 minutes. And I could hear the angels singing. I'm telling you, it was almost like the best Christmas gift ever just to get that off I love to get cards, you guys. So if you haven't sent me a Christmas card, please do it. And you can send that to me at Firmly Planted Family, 11100 Northeast 34th Circle, Vancouver, Washington. Yes, I'm still here, 98682. You guys, I love to hear from you. And I hope you guys are having a great Christmas season. All right, Mark Sherwood is back on the show. We have already looked over your questions. We've got some great ones today. Mark, my friend, welcome back.
Thank you. Happy Monday and Merry Christmas week. I'm glad to hear of your victory on those cards. That's very impressive.
You know what? It was no small feat. My husband was at work, and I came down to to Firmly Planted, and he saw me at the front door, and I was like, all of the Christmas cards are in the mail, and he knows like how big of a deal that was. He was like, "Do you need someone to take you to dinner?" I'm like, "Yes, I do." Why, yes, I do. I've only made like 75 loaves of sourdough bread. We're
love it.
Checking it off the list. How about you? Are you guys having a good Christmas season?
We are, this time of year, in our world, we keep it very much in perspective. This time of year for us, I'm actually thinking to myself, I want to kick my wellness into high gear. I want to kick my spiritual life into high gear. It reminds me of the reason that we are alive today, the reason we had to be grateful. So for me, it's an extra motivation right now.
Yeah, it's good. And it helps us kind of remember we're trying to get ready to go into a new year, and God's not done. If we're still here and we're still breathing, God's not finished, right?
Come on, man. If you got breath, you got hope. And people should take this lesson. Hope dealer. Become a hope dealer, please.
Yeah. Well, you're leading the way on that. I'm going to start with a question from a listener in Oklahoma.
Uh-oh.
Yes. Question for you. What are your thoughts concerning coffee consumption? So Dana says that she likes to enjoy a standard size mug in the morning. Listen, Dana. Standard size. Really? Do words mean anything anymore? We can't define what a woman is. Cambridge says it doesn't know anymore. We don't even know what standard means. So for all we know, Mark, standard for her could be like 3 liters. We don't know. But she says she's enjoying a standard size mug in the morning and one in the afternoon, and she only drinks organic roast, and she does not consume any other caffeine, and she drinks water all day. But she's noticed if she misses a cup of coffee, the headache that follows is awful. What do you think?
Well, certainly there is some level of addiction to that caffeine. And that's what you have right there. You have an addiction to caffeine.
But it's an organic addiction.
Yeah, and I'll say this. Coffee's not bad. Coffee has multiple health benefits. The only negatives to coffee are as follows, and you've checked off one of them. If you get an inorganic blend, you're talking about mold and mycotoxins. That's very common. So organic is always a necessity if you can. And then secondly, if you have like high blood pressure, that may be an issue, of course, because you don't want to drive blood pressure because it is a stimulant. And then the last part of it is does it keep you awake at night, therefore disrupting sleep patterns? And I think the overriding theme is if it doesn't become your drink of choice and you're having let's just put it into perspective. If you're not having 2 pots a day, my friend, you're probably going to be okay.
You're probably gonna be okay.
Yes.
And you know what? She's bouncing it out. She said she's drinking water. Most of the people that we talk to on the show, that's their struggle. They're having a hard time drinking water.
Yeah, I have water. The key point to water is make it visible and available. Visible and available. If you'll do that every day, and this is a tip for the listeners out there in your workstation, your workplace, wherever you frequent, Always have, there you go. You always got to have water there.
You're making me thirsty.
It's important. So let's have a sip together there. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you so much. That was
Como dice en
excellent.
español, salud. Yeah.
Salud.
So it's good though, but coffee is not bad at all. It's just a matter of selecting the right ones and balancing it out with plenty of water.
This question came in from Grace via YouTube, and it kind of goes along with the coffee question. She's asking you, is liquid stevia better than sugar?
Yes. Liquid stevia is from a plant. Sugar would be, technically from a plant.
Sugar's
the cane
from a
sugar.
plant, the sugar cane.
Yeah, but we've got to be very careful about the amount of sugar and the type of sugar. Much of our sugar today is processed. It's not the natural old sugar cane where you can suck on a piece of cane. It's not like that. I would prefer stevia. Caution flag, stevia requires a little tiny bit because of the very strong aftertaste potential. Some people don't like that. You can also look at monk fruit as well.
I like a monk fruit sweetener. Years ago, I haven't done this for a while, but I did the keto diet for a while, and they introduced me to monk fruit sweetener.
Yeah.
I found it didn't have the same aftertaste as stevia.
Right.
And so I enjoyed that. That was just my own little personal. But yeah, I mean, you were talking about last week, and actually a listener wrote in and said that she was so worried that her sugar consumption was just off the chart. And I asked her, how much sugar are you eating? And it didn't sound like she was eating a terrible amount of sugar to me. And so really what you're saying is, hey, just keep things in moderation. Be aware of what you're eating.
Yeah, like sugar is one of the things that, again, it's not unnatural. So let's just kind of understand normal cane sugar is not a natural thing. It's a natural food. It's not supposed to be bad, but it's the volume of other sugary and sugar conversion foods that create the problem. So, if you're going to consume sugar, probably less than 10 grams a day would be your top end. And then, of course, that would be balanced out. Do you have insulin resistance or other vascular cardiometabolic issues?
Yeah. So important. Anonymous, you got an anonymous one.
Uh-oh.
New Jersey. She says that her mom has rheumatoid arthritis and was told that she had to go on, was it methotrexate?
Methotrexate, right.
Methotrexate. She's very concerned with potential side effects. Are there natural options to slow the progression of rheumatoid arthritis?
Yes. Rheumatoid arthritis, when you think about the itis suffix on anything, that's meaning inflammation. So in this case, we're talking about inflammation of the joints, and we know the long-term ramification of that is you get the disformity of the joints, et cetera. But here's what mama can do. She can go on an anti-inflammatory food protocol, very key. So think about eating above ground non-root vegetables and then good quality proteins and fats. Avoid processed foods, processed sugars, and pretty much anything white. Secondly, your mom can use some omega-3 fatty acids. So you want about 3 to 4 grams. Again, high dose EPA and DHA. Those are two types of omega-3s within that. And she can also add something called pro-resolvin mediators. Okay, pro-resolvin mediators, which you can get those, through us if you want to, but that also creates a little resolve to the inflammatory cascade. Doing those three things can give her some relief. Having said that, the methotrexate is tempered with the idea of how far advanced the particular disease process, autoimmune condition is.
All right, that's good. Carleen, Montana. She has a question for you. What are some good tips for hair loss or hair thinning in women? I experienced loss of hair a few months after COVID. Boy, I've heard this a lot.
Yeah.
I also had a hysterectomy 2 years ago, kept my ovaries, but I'm only 36. I've been taking a low dose of DHEA for about 8 months, but I've read that this can cause hair loss. A woman's hair makes her feel like a woman. Boy, she's right about that. And it causes some negative self-talk and stress, which exacerbates the problem. What supplements or advice do you have?
Well, DHEA is a double-edged sword because it can create hair growth in places you don't want growth, like your chin, and hair loss in places you don't want loss, like your head. And so if you think that is a problem potentially, I'd back that off. The second issue is when you have a partial hysterectomy, you still don't get the normal production of your hormones. Therefore, they might be less. So you might check your estrogen level. You might check your testosterone level, because if that estradiol goes down, you're going to have hair loss. The third thing to keep in mind is thyroid. Don't forget that one. A dysfunctional thyroid on the upper end, hyper or the lower end, hypo, can also be a contributor towards hair loss. And then finally, you might look at a micronutrient test to determine, are you low in things like vitamin A and even the unique B vitamin called biotin?
Oh, all right. Well, I'm watching these questions kind of coming through. We had a few questions before about women who have had hysterectomies but keep their ovaries. I had a hysterectomy years ago. It's probably been 7 or 8 years ago. And they told me, oh, hey, if you keep your ovaries, everything's the same. No, It's not the same.
No.
It's not. Your ovaries are like, wait a second, something's missing. What's going on right now? Who took out the mothership, right? And so you end up with all kinds of issues, but they don't tell you that that's going to be the case. And I'm actually glad to see her asking such an honest question.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And keep in mind, too, that anytime you remove something from the body, you remove something from a system. And anytime you remove something from a system, something's missing from the system. So the body will try to compensate, but it doesn't always do that. And there's a lot of factors involved. Heidi, your case, somebody else's case might be different. But the bottom line is you got to find someone that's going to help you navigate those waters to find out where there is potential dysfunction. If not, it can be hair loss. It can be other symptoms as well, including weight gain.
Yeah, and ain't nobody got time for that.
No, that's good.
Sarah in Ohio says, we do our best to eat a low-sugar diet. We also see a naturopath. My kiddos still seem to be catching everything that we even might be exposed to. It seems that we get 1 week healthy and several weeks of sickness. We're really struggling. Is there anything I can do to help?
Yeah, with the kids, depending on how old they are, and this is very important, if they're 10, 12, and older, you got to make sure they have adequacy of vitamin D. Many kids don't do that. You got to make sure the kids have adequacy of omega-3 fatty acids. Now, even for a 10 or 12-year-old, I'm still recommending, from what I've seen, 5,000 IUs a day. And then from the omega-3s, 2 to 3 milligrams per day, like we talked about in the previous question about rheumatoid arthritis. And finally, you want to get them on a good multivitamin and mineral. You're not too young for that kind of stuff. And many times the little ones' immune systems still are adapting, but immune systems are ran on these micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, fatty acids. If they're less than that, depending on where they are in that cascade of age, you still got to look at D, omegas, and a multi, but you might have to go, I prefer this, into a liquid form so they're not having to swallow capsules because they could choke.
Yeah, that's good. And you have those, do you guys have those at your website?
We do. And, people, if the young kids are 10 or 12 or over, we have those immune support packs, super easy. Give them 1 pack a day. The dose is perfect for them. And then add a little bit of omega-3. So get our omega 1000 with that, and then give them 2 of those. So 2 of those and 1 immune pack. And you'll have those pathways covered, coupled with your low sugar, healthy diet. And they're going to have a wonderful adaptive immune system that's going to build strength.
If you guys are interested in finding those supplements, you can go to sherwood.tv/Heidi. That's the code that gives you the discount. So you're going to make sure to do it that way. An anonymous listener, this is my favorite question of today. And let me look and see what time we're at, because I want to see, good, we've got time. Okay, good. So Dr. Sherwood, do you think that colonoscopies are necessary? I had my first at age 50 and was given a 10-year pass. Now I'm at the 10-year mark, and I don't want to go through it again. What about home tests? The only colon cancer in my family was my grandfather when he was 89 years old. Thank you for addressing this. Wow.
So I'll answer the last part of that question first, because we've had this a lot, and then I'll give you a story, and then I'll give you my opinion. Last question first is that there is another test. It's called Cologuard. Cologuard. Typically, you can get that ran through insurance pretty easy. It's a stool test that looks for, the residual amounts of cancer that's coming out. So that's a good test. Now, the mainstream proponents of a colonoscopy are going to poo-poo that test. Pun intended right there. I hope you caught that right. But the bottom line is, I know, right? You catch me this time on a Monday, I'm ready to roll, man.
Right.
But the bottom line is that's a good test. Horror story. I had a friend, I'm using the past tense had because he's now deceased. He was about 40 years old, and was told that it's a good time to get one. Well, you go in and do this, folks, and you sign a waiver, meaning you're saying, if you screw this up, I can't sue you.
Sounds like the another industry that we are constantly
Thank
criticizing.
you.
Yes.
And so he goes in and gets a colonoscopy. They rupture a bowel.
Oh, no.
Long story short, he ends up at the hospital in Rochester, Minnesota, and loses his family, gets a divorce, and then he dies. Horrible situation. Was a terrific friend of mine, and we had many talks about that. And I echo his words: don't do it because you don't need it. If you have a symptom that's there, perhaps like you have bleeding in the stool, okay, look at that. Mm-hmm. But don't just do it because it's not anything that creates preventive action, in mine and my wife's opinion. People can differ from that, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. But don't do it because it's time. Do it because there's an actual need of a symptom. Yeah, exactly. It's not a preventative kind of thing, because what would create colon cancer is colon dysfunction. How do you prevent colon dysfunction? Don't eat garbage.
Yeah, pretty simple. That's not what we're talking to people about, though. We're talking to them about tests and vaccines and all kinds of, we said this, you and I, a couple of years ago, health doesn't come from a mask and a needle, and it also doesn't come from a colonoscopy. So that begs the question, I guess, because we're going to get it. I might as well just preemptively ask it.
Yeah.
What's your opinion then about routine mammograms for women?
Yeah, same kind of deal. Now, here's the deal with the mammograms. Some women have very thick breast tissue. Okay, if the mammogram's an image and the breasts are pressed into that machine.
Pressed is being sweet.
Well, I'm trying to be kind. I've heard the word crushed, painful, etc. Right?
Yeah, run over by a tractor, smashed.
Yeah. And so, when the breasts are pushed there, that image is taken of that breast. If the tissue is thick, it might not see a tumor there anyway. So we should really understand that. The reason that you might have it is you could see a tumor. You could. Now let's put that in you could see a tumor box. Is that preventive to breast cancer? Well, the answer would be no, based upon what you're actually asking. You're asking, is there something that is tumor? If it's a tumor and it's cancer, that didn't prevent anything. It just saw it, right? Now, you should always do the self-exam. Clearly, that's your first line. Consider even a thermography, looking for heat sources. That's very good. It's not going to expose you to radiation and or the smashing concept. Mm-hmm. And remember as well that the reason we have this susceptibility to breast cancer is not because we are born that way. It's because we don't clear, for the most part, estrogenic compounds, which are given out in the form of birth control like candy, and they're in our food supply in mass, they're in our pollution, they're in our lotions, they're in our sunscreens, water. And so we're getting exposed to stuff all the time. And we're not anti-mammograms as just a tone, but if you have a knot there or something you feel that's okay, cool. But try to be more preventive on it. And then we like the idea of self-exam and thermography first.
I think that's so important. I love thermography. I have a friend who actually does that for a living, and she said it is really changing the industry.
Yes.
For exactly the reason that you just said. It's not exposing women to unnecessary amounts of radiation, which is what you're exposing yourself to every time you go in for an annual mammogram. So that's excellent, excellent counsel. All right, I've got time for another one. I thought this was interesting. Stacy in Colorado. Thank you, Stacy, for writing in. She says, I've so enjoyed listening to Dr. Mark answer many pertinent health questions. I have my master's in public health and a keen interest in functional medicine. My question is, what type or form of magnesium is best for the body? There are so many various forms. And she's saying, does it matter what we take for absorption or function within the various systems of the body? There's another person who's asking virtually the same question. Joy in Washington asking virtually the same question. She says, I'm 79, soon to be 80, including other supplements. No pharmaceuticals. I take magnesium glycinate and potassium, as a glycinate, every day. I'm now developing hand tremors, and she's wondering what kind of magnesium should she be taking?
Well, I appreciate both of those questions. Magnesium is commonly found to be deficient in most people today. When you look for a test to look for whether it's adequate or not, you don't necessarily want to look in the whole blood. You want to look in the intracellular spaces. So look for a micronutrients test. We do that a lot because magnesium in whole blood doesn't tell you if it got down to the cell. As Stacy said from Colorado, there are various types. The common types that you see out there, the cheapest type is a magnesium oxide. You're going to see that out there as a filler. Not recommended. There's also magnesium citrate, which is typically used to relax the bowels. So if you have a constipation issue, you may dose up with citrate until you get the effect you want. Make sure that you evacuate the bowels every day so you don't just wait until you're backed up to go fix it. So use magnesium as a proactive and preventive to this constipation issue because that's just waste built up. I like magnesium malate for more of energy sources. Malic acid, the way it's bound, is found in the Krebs cycle or ATP production within our mitochondria. So we got to understand that magnesium is part of the energy production pathway. I like threonate to cross the blood-brain barrier in order to relax the brain. So if someone needs some relaxation at night, I like threonate a lot. I take a little bit of threonate before bed. And finally, the one that's probably the all-purpose one that I like best is glycinate. It's really good. So everybody should be using glycinate. Dose the glycinate up to bowel tolerance. It's going to be somewhere between probably 300 milligrams and probably 800 or 900 milligrams. Very important, especially for the person with the tremors, because magnesium is a relaxer as well. So you want to come up with that to see if you can get some of those tremors to tone down. And even for the tremors, you may try a little bit of full spectrum hemp, which has some anti-inflammatory and relaxant properties within that as well.
That is amazing. I'm writing. I should show you my notepad sometime. You're going to laugh because I'm thinking, I should talk to my mom about this. And I'm taking notes. I've got one other question that was sent in. This comes from someone who's suffering from, she thinks is arthritis, and she's saying she's having trouble in her hands. She's noticed, what do I do now? So think of the joints in her thumbs and just movement. She said movement's becoming very difficult. Is there anything that she can do to sort of increase her tolerance to this, or something she can do with inflammation? How can we help the pain for this woman?
Yeah, a couple things you want to do is obviously start with food, get the anti-inflammatory foods in there and the inflammatory foods out. But most people that have any sort of itis, again, the suffix meaning inflammation, you got to think about, are we born with inflammation? No. And what is inflammation? It's actually the initiation of a healing process. But when it continues and it's perpetuated, becoming chronic and systemic, it's a healing process going awry that's not able to deal with and resolve the issues. Same as before, make sure your vitamin D, as in David, is up there. You probably have working at 60 to 80 in your blood measurement, 25 hydroxy D. You want to make sure your omega-3s are up there at 3 to 4 grams, and consider those pro-resolvin mediators, which are amazing. So those 3 things plus the diet should give you some relief.
What's the last one that you said?
It's called pro-resolvin mediators.
Yeah. What is this?
You can look at.
You're talking Chinese to me
I know,
now.
right? So here's the deal: if people can understand, when the body goes into an inflammatory process, it sends inflammatory signals that direction to say, hey, guys, we have a problem. Let's get the troops on board and let's fix it. When the correction process is near done, it sends signals back that are known as resolvins. It kind of sounds like resolve, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So if we can bring those in, the resolve happens faster. And so we can get the inflammation to tone down a little bit quicker. These are amazing. So when you go to our site, you're going to type in Resolvin, RESOLVIN, or INS, Resolvin or Resolvins, and that'll pop up, and those are what people need. The dose is 2.
All right. That's good to know. I wrote that down. Also, again, people can find these supplements at sherwood.tv/Heidi. That's how you get the discount. And I'm thrilled because I actually see as these questions are coming in, and I know you're noticing this too, people are writing in and they're good questions, and we're going to keep doing it. So, Dr. Mark, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas.
Me too. Merry Christmas to you and Jay and the rest of your family, and Skylar back there behind the scenes. He never gets recognized, but I appreciate
Skylar doesn't. See, I know, right? But he does notice your hair.
Oh, I know, because Skylar,
every single time.
I have to get approval. But look, I just want to wish everybody the most amazing Christmas and just really celebrate the reason for the season by honoring God with everything you do, physically, emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, and financially.
I love that. Dr. Mark Sherwood, it's just a delight to have you on the show as always. And people can find you, correct, at sherwood.tv/Heidi. Dr. Mark, have a great Christmas, and I will see you back here again really soon. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. The Lord bless you.
Thank you. You too. For more information, you can go to HeidiSt.John.com/podcast or just hop on over to Sherwood.tv/Heidi. We want you guys to be healthy. Healthy emotionally, healthy physically, healthy spiritually. We've had a rough couple of years, you guys, but we want to be dealing some hope over here at the Heidi St. John podcast. And I'm so thankful that Dr. Mark's been coming on regularly with me. If you have a question that you would like him to answer, shoot it to me at HeidiSt.John.com/MailBox Monday. And that is where you can leave your question for Dr. Mark. Have a great day, everybody. Keep the Christmas spirit up, okay? Don't become a Grinch. Too soon for that. Don't become a Grinch. Have a great day. And I'll see you back here again tomorrow at the intersection of faith and culture.